from growing up with your parents, I mean your grandparents, and moving to your parents' home, that transition of changing homes, did it have any effect on you?
No, I don't think so. No, because my parents were fluent in Tumbuga, so
Yes.
at home they would speak to me in obviously those. I think one thing I found to be troubling
Yes.
as a child, and that was, when you're growing up in a household that is controlled by grandparents, they tend to be very relaxed about stuff. And overnight, I found myself in a house where there was, my dad. I didn't have any relationship with him at that time, and I was about 5 years old. And I think he saw a lot of things in my behavior he didn't like. He obviously had not had an opportunity of imposing. I wouldn't call it imposing himself on me, but trying to shape me into the kind of little boy that he wanted.
Because there's some things grandparents let
Yes,
go
exactly.
of,
So I think it was that now process of him trying to prune what he saw as being undesirable elements in my behavior, which I found to be a little difficult. And I think I was resentful of that. Just you would be like, okay, can I just go back to that relaxed and chilled upbringing that I was used to. Yeah, I think that was the only thing that was a bit of a shock to the system. That your grandparents, they are usually relaxed, and then all of a sudden you had a father figure in your life who's
strict about
can't do this, you can't do that. It was all a bit different.
Take us to your primary school. Where did you start?
So, because I was born in Mbangweni, my stand one was at Loudon Primary School, which is the Mission Primary School at Mbangweni. And then my stand two would have been at Kawale Primary School. Now, when I was going into stand three, I think I did a term at Kawale Primary School. And then my dad decided that I needed to go home. So, in our Ngoni culture up north, home is where your dad comes from. So he said, okay, because I need to introduce this boy to my folks back home, and he needs to know his home, to be introduced to his village. So I was shipped over to Ekwendeni, where my dad came from, which is home, traditional home, and I spent maybe the next 1 year there. So the remainder of my time in stand 3 and a part of stand 4 were done at a primary school known as Ekwaiweni Primary School. So in Ekwendeni. It was quite interesting. We at that time the place was sparsely populated. We didn't have a lot of people. There was a lot of forest cover that we've done a very splendid job of depleting, sadly. And I remember one would actually, get scared walking from, where my grandparents' house was to Ekwaiweni Primary School. It was all, but I was there, so I did my stand 3 and then part of stand 4, and came back. My mom and dad came for me. I think that was 93, towards the end of 93, and enrolled me at Nanjadi Primary School, where I did the remainder of my, primary school education.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take you back a little bit. Now, you were the only child when you're coming in from Zimba to come and live with
Yes,
your
I
parents.
was. At that time, I was.
Now your siblings are coming in. How many do you have? And
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got 2. My brother was born 91 when we were still staying in that house in Kawale. His name is Dumisani. Yeah. And then in 1995, we were joined by the last born, a sister, Nyembezi. Yeah, so in total 3 of us. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Sure.
From primary school now, you're going to secondary school. What was it like after your standard 8?
Yeah, standard 8. So I sat for my exams in 98, passed, but didn't do as well to get selected to a better secondary school. I suspect it is because I got an F in arithmetic.
So the selection didn't find you.
Yeah, I completely flunked my arithmetic exam. Okay, so because of that F, it kind of messed up with my selection prospects. But I was still selected to Chipasura Secondary School, which was a day secondary school, one of the nicest at that time in the city. And that's where I did my Form 1 and 2. Now, as I was waiting for my from 2 exams, JC exams, I lost my dad. And the loss of my dad meant that, you had other people coming in and trying to weigh in on how my future would pan out. And one of the decisions that was made was that maybe I needed to change schools to kind of improve my chances of making it to uni.
University, yeah.
So at the time we had SOS Secondary School in Area 24. It was just a newly established school. Very beautiful. It had amazing facilities, and that's where I went so after the release of the JC exams. I just did, I think, 2-3 weeks, as I recall, of Form 3 at Chipasura. Then I changed schools and went to SOS, where I finished term 1. And then my uncle decided that to further, better the prospects of me making it to uni, I needed to transfer to Pwezi Boys. So he had me enroll at Pwezi Boys, where I finished my secondary school from. Yeah.
Let me drag you back to the moment you lose your father.
Yes.
You're very young, you're saying you're in secondary school. And traditionally, you being the firstborn and a boy, there's an element of where you have to shoulder that responsibility to an extent.
Yeah.
What was it like for you mentally? Or in what sort of place were you hearing of the loss of your father and looking at life? In what position did that put you in?
Yeah, the reality of the matter is, I think he had been ill for quite a while, and so when he passed, I think a part of me was kind of relieved that he was no longer in pain. I always say that I think I grieved for my dad more when he suffered through his illness than when he passed, at least up to that time. When he died, I was like, maybe he's now in a better place where he doesn't have to. We were lucky in that my mom was working at the time. She was, still with Little Hotel. Yeah. And then my uncle, who eventually was sent me to Pwezi Boys, he stepped in. This was the kid brother to my late dad, so basically stepped in and supported us through what would have otherwise been a very difficult childhood. Obviously, maybe in terms of the emotional toll, I bore the brunt of it because my siblings were quite young. They didn't really understand what was happening. Even now, when you talk to them, I think their recollection of him a bit faint. But for me, I spent a lot of time with him when he was healthy, but also during his illness, and so it was difficult to see him wasting away and all of that. Yeah, but I think the fact that my mom was working and she had my uncle to lean on was quite helpful. Yeah.
It's beautiful when you have that sort of support system around you. But I mean, being a parent, there are still moments, I think, where you get hit that that person is not here.
Yes.
There are moments you wish they were there. How do you navigate those times? Because for the people watching you now, some of us who've also lost parents and people that are close to us, how do you go through those moments and just forge ahead with life?
For me, grieving over the loss of my dad has been a continuous process. I don't think one gets over such. And 2001, it's now been 23 years, but I still miss him. These days, the loss become more accentuated when there is something big happening in my life. I remember, getting very emotional when in 2018 when I was retiring as president of the Law Society and I was giving my valedictory address. Yes. After I'd given that address, the only thing I really, really wanted just to give him a bear hug, and to ask him if, he was proud of his son and whatever it is that, I had achieved at that point. But obviously he wasn't around. Same when, we won the presidential elections case, as I was driving back home, it just hit me that, my dad wasn't around to share in that moment with me, So that's what happens. Every time you've got this, big thing happening in your life, I think that's when the void becomes even much more pronounced.
Yes.
That you know you've yeah. So we don't really recover from a loss of a parent or someone we were connected to that deeply. Maybe with time we just learn to manage the pain a little better. I think that's what happens, and I think that's really what I've done. You know, it's with the passage of time, you just learn to navigate around the emotional turmoil that follows the loss of a parent.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's tough.
Sure.
You know.
It is.